All right, welcome back. I'm Justin Rempel. This video is talking about a student sample paper, and it's taking a look at their final draft. If you haven't yet, check out the previous video on the student sample paper for the same paper, focused on the rough draft. I think that's really important because it gives you a good sense of the process and what people have already accomplished and how they get there, right? So not just wow, this is an amazing paper, which it is. It's a really good paper. But how do people write, rewrite, edit until they end up with this amazing paper? So not a lot has changed on this title page. You can see that I have once again whited out the student's name to keep them anonymous, and I've written student sample. In this final draft, there is not writing on the page, though. We don't make notes and annotations in pencil or pen for ourselves before handing it in. The final submitted copy should be neat, and it should be formatted according to the proper citation style. So just to recap, this particular paper is done in APA citation style, which was requested in the assignment. And it is on the topic of high functioning anxiety. It's actually focused on practical coping strategies to deal with high functioning anxiety. And you can see that all right there in the title. The title is the first thing on the title page. It's in bold, it's centered, high functioning anxiety and practical coping strategies. Then there's a few lines left blank, a bit of a space, and then the next chunk of information, which gives you the student's name, the name of the school, the name of the course, the grade level, the name of the teacher or instructor. Double check with your instructor about titles. Some are particular. This particular student wrote Mr. Justin Rempel. I'm fine with just Justin Rempel. If you're in a university course with a professor and they have a doctorate, proper title might be doctor, and they might just want doctor and their last name. Not even their first name. So it depends. Some teachers are more formal than others. The last piece of information on the paper is the date. And one of the things you should double check before you hand in your paper, you submit it for the final time, check to make sure that the date is correct. It's just a nice little detail to keep neat and organized. Okay, so this is a title page formatted APA style. Let's start looking at the actual body of the paper. So this is the written text. It's the final draft. It's very neat and organized. It's been through, I think this is the third draft. So a few rounds of editing, and it is very properly formatted. The sentences are well structured. The paragraphs are well organized. This is an excellent paper. One of the things I mentioned in the last video was that in the rough draft, the writer had forgotten an article. They just said, according to World Health Organization in the opening sentence. That's been fixed, right? According to the World Health Organization. And then the year in brackets. Normally, when we're doing in-text citations, you can see that there's the author's last name or the organization, whoever the author is of the source, then a comma, and then the year of publication. In this case, the name of the organization, who is the author, is included in the text. It's in the actual sentence that the writer records. So we don't need to include it again in the in-text citation, just the year is fine. Direct quotations are in quotation marks and they're properly cited. Where there is information that is not the author's own, it is from a different source, that is also cited with an in-text citation. So this paper it's a research paper about anxiety. It's quite citation heavy. You can see there's lots of references to original sources. I would much rather have this than not refer to original sources. If you're borrowing information, definitely take the time to cite it properly. It's important to keep track of where the information is coming from. We have our introductory paragraph. This opening paragraph really just introduces the topic, lets us know that the paper is about anxiety. It gives us some just general statistics about the impact of anxiety, just so we as a reader get a sense of how serious this issue is. And then it ends with a nice thesis that explains this paper is focused on a specific type of anxiety, high functioning anxiety. And the whole point of the paper is to provide some practical strategies that people can apply if they are living with high functioning anxiety. So that last sentence of the introduction paragraph needs to have the thesis, and this paper does. It's about high functioning anxiety. Here's some practical strategies. It's a very pragmatic, hands-on sort of paper. Let's give you some actual things to work on. The body of the text, the supporting points, really follow an order that makes a lot of sense to me as a reader. It's one of the things that I like best about this paper. The writer starts by defining their terms. Okay, what is anxiety? What do I mean when I say high functioning anxiety? All of these basic terms that they're going to be writing about for the rest of the paper are defined up front so that readers understand what they're talking about. They talk about it in professional terms as it relates to psychologists and their tool of measurement, which is the DSM-5 here. And then the next step is to kind of talk about signs and symptoms of high functioning anxiety. Now that we've laid out broad definition, what is it like for people who actually experience this? Very reasonable, logical next step to talk about, right? Notice that they haven't gotten at all into the thesis, which is providing strategies. They're really being careful, taking their time to define their terms, define signs and symptoms, what it looks like. They're building in an order that makes sense. And each new concept or new supporting point comes in its own paragraph. It's Times New Roman, size 12 font, double spaced. It's got page numbers, okay? All of these little formatting things are in place. The next thing that the writer talks about are some created challenges. What are some of the obstacles that people who live with high functioning anxiety experience? What do they have to overcome? In other words, the writer's building a case. Why should I care as a reader, or how does this impact people? They're not just giving you strategies to deal with or help with high functioning anxiety. They're telling the reader why strategies are needed in the first place, right? That comes first. So a lot of the business of writing a paper and editing, organizing a paper is thinking about the order of information and what makes sense. Okay, so we've defined our terms, we've got signs and symptoms, we've got the challenges that are created. The very last thing the writer provides are some hands-on practical strategies that people can try and use to deal with their anxiety. Okay. Lastly, the final paragraph is the conclusion. The conclusion does not introduce new information. It summarizes. And sometimes, especially beginning writers, have trouble figuring out the tone for a conclusion. I think this final paragraph is a really good example of a good conclusion. It's a very hopeful tone and it's forward thinking. So what are maybe some new developments in this field, or what's going to come down the road? What is the hope or good news for people who are trying to deal with high functioning anxiety? So it's always nice to end your paper on a note that is hopeful and looks to the future, right? After we get through the concluding paragraph, here it is. In summary, anxiety does not have to equal low functioning. Anxiety is common. A lot of people have it. There's an inspirational quote from Maya Angelou. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. Okay, so this is a very uplifting, hopeful, and forward-looking conclusion. Seeking effective strategies and receiving professional therapies can help people return to a balanced life. What a great concluding sentence, okay? It returns us to our thesis, which is about effective strategies, and it ends with hope. It says strategies can help, they work, it's been proven that they're effective, and this is wonderful news for people who are dealing with high functioning anxiety. The last thing I want to look at is the reference page. Again, this is properly formatted according to APA citation style. Different citation styles will have slightly different formatting. There's the bold title references at the top of the page. And then our references are formatted correctly and they are ordered correctly. The order should be alphabetical according to the author's last name, because that's the first piece of information that we get. Carmichael C, Kunchich A, Lindbergh S, the author's last name, and then a comma, and then their first initial is the first piece of information in the end of text citation for any type of source. Notice that where there is no specific author, the name of the organization is given and alphabetized instead. For example, Public Health Agency of Canada falls under the letter P. World Health Organization falls under the letter W. These organizations or groups are taken to be the author. The second piece of information is in brackets. It's the date of publication, the year, the comma, then the month, and then the day. And then the title is provided. Only the first word of the title is capitalized, except for proper nouns. And if this is from a web source, which many of these sources are, the web address or the hyperlink is included at the end. Every line after the first line is indented slightly. These are all little details, but they're proper formatting. So it's really important to use proper formatting. The Purdue Online Writing Lab is the best resource to use. It's the most up-to-date. It covers all the different citation styles, but generally your reference page should look something like this. And this is a place where we can use the in-text citations as we're reading to refer to this final reference page. We can check and see, where did that piece of information come from? Carmichael. Okay, if I wanted to find out more, where would I look? Okay, I would find this book by this publisher published in this year. Perfect, I know exactly where to go. Okay, so a reference page at the end connects to all the in-text citations that we've included throughout our writing. Excellent end to an excellent, very thorough paper.